Hey, what's up? This is Alan Robertson. This video is a behind-the-scenes look at my newly released old song, a new version of Levee Breaking, one of my most fan-favorited and requested tracks from originally back in 2012. So in this video I'm going to be telling you a little bit about how the original version of the song came to be, some of the journey with it over the years, and then this recent version, the 777 mix. I'm going to be showing you behind the scenes how I arranged the track, how I recorded the lead vocals, the harmonies, the bass line, the harmonium, and kind of give you some of my favorite parts and little nuggets from in the mix that you probably wouldn't notice just from the track alone as it stands. So come on, I'll pull the curtain back, come check it out, and let's get into it.
My heart goes open and my mind goes free.
So this song, Levee Breaking, originally was inspired by some work that I was doing with some drum sampling. I basically bought the BFD2 drum sampling plugin because I was working on the drums for my progressive rock album, which the instrumental version of it is actually on Spotify under my name, if you want to search for it. And so I had a really polished drum sound in my mind that I wanted to achieve for this album, that basically if I was going to do it live with a real drum set, I was going to need like thousands of dollars more in microphones and preamps and probably some new cymbals for my drums, maybe a new drum kit, maybe ideally a much nicer room to record in than the small bedroom in the corner of my dad's house, which I am super grateful to have had that space, and he was very patient with me, but just a bedroom. There's not a lot of drum sound you can get, though I did okay with it. As you can see in this little sample here, there's a video that I recorded using the sound absorbers that I made out of fiberglass and some coating material over top of them. So basically I was spending time getting used to BFD2, figuring out how it's going to work for my album, and I just tried to duplicate the drums from Led Zeppelin's song When the Levee Breaks from their album Led Zeppelin 4, which if you haven't heard it, go check the song out. So that is where the inspiration for the name of my version of the song came from, even though it's totally different sounding than the Led Zeppelin track. Anyway, so while I was playing with the drum samples and just getting used to BFD2, I started hearing my own version of Levee Breaking coming to me, like some lyrics, some chord progressions, and I was hearing it stylistically totally different, not rock. I was hearing it more pop. So I started poking away with some digital drum and bass, some piano and some orchestral sounds, and a little bit of marching snare drum. And yeah, I poked away at it over a few months and eventually came to having the instrumental tracks done, which sounds like this. And you should be able to find this on both Spotify and possibly YouTube too if you want to sing along with the instrumental version of this. So I ended up finishing the lyrics and the singing for this song back in 2012 in my early days with Helena and the Open Heart, and with her support, spiritual and encouragement support. And she invited me out to go on tour to do some spiritual and musical sharing with her. And we had a house concert in LA one time where we got this original video, which is on YouTube, the original version of Levee Breaking, with the one with the cool red and blue photo filter on it. And yeah, over the years, a lot of people have told me that they really appreciate it. They find it really uplifting, the song. And it's been one that stuck with me in my decade-long journey through the seasons and movements of my musical journey, which these days has been kind of honing in more on my voice, working with my voice and harmonium and acoustic guitar. And so the inspiration for the 777 mix of Levee Breaking that you probably have heard if you're listening to this video, it was largely inspired by my friends Eiley and Natalia. Eiley stewards the Sophia Sound Temple here in Calgary, which is the room and the house, but particularly the room that I'm sitting in right now where we do various kinds of healing work. And so we're all of us hanging around the house and singing Levee Breaking together and really appreciating the lyrics and the vibe of it together. Especially I've got over the years, when I've been with the harmonium and voice version of it, I find it really evocative and like draws on deeper emotions than the original poppy version does. And so anyway, just with kind of the excitement around the song, I had this inspiration come to me, hey, it would be cool to try an a cappella version of this song. I say try because I've tried a lot of a cappella versions for things over the years, and because I've been working on my voice, I've rarely been happy with the results of it. But anyways, like, I'll give it a try. And so I found a slot at the temple here when there was some free time, and I set myself up to basically record a basic version of the harmonium and voice that I could then, it would serve as the basic arrangement for the song that I could sing the other voices along with. So to do that, I figured out a metronome, or as it's known, a click track. I basically played around with tempos until I figured out the pace at which I wanted the song to go for this version. I settled on 66 beats per minute. And then I did a take of me just singing and playing harmonium, which would be the basis for all of the stuff I would stack on after. It sounds like this.
My levees are breaking down, I'm pouring out. My heart is open, I won't keep closing down. I was born to love, you share that vision now.
So I did this scratch recording because otherwise it would be just a total gong show. If I didn't have some instrument to sing along with, to do a real good studio version of this song, I would have been all over the place if I didn't have an instrument to play with, sing with. So that's what this basic harmonium guide track was about. And so once I had the basic scratch track in place, then I recorded a straight up harmonium track following along with that scratch track in the headphones, so that I could basically follow along with the volume swells and the dynamics of the track, so I wouldn't get lost, and I could really make the harmonium track that I'm recording cohesive to the whole final output that I was shooting for. So with the harmonium in place there, I muted the old scratch track totally, and I just played with the harmonium track and the metronome in my headphones, and I sang the lead vocal track, which is the track that the singing that everybody knows from the original version of Levee Breaking, and the one that I sing now when I'm playing the song live. For the record, the video of me singing all these parts and playing that you see here was done after the fact. So in the studio, I didn't record any video. It would have been too much for my production system right now and my gear. But so, I would have had a mic in my face too with a pop filter and all of that. So what you're seeing is the video is done after the fact, but the sound that you hear is the studio vocals.
No matter where I go, my heart goes open and my mind goes free. Yeah. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
So at this point, I was kind of in uncharted territory because this is as far as I'd ever really come up with the parts. I'd never really officially decided on a vocal harmony or a bass line or anything like that. Didn't need it in the previous version. Also, at this point, I wasn't even planning on leaving the harmonium in the final mix. I was just using it to sing along with. Though I did change my mind in the end on that because I just loved the extra glow and the ambience in the mix that the harmonium brings. So as far as writing and arranging the rest of the song, I did know I wanted a bass line at the bottom of the spectrum and beatboxing. And I also knew that I wanted at least one harmony track, and I sensed that it would be best between the bass line at the low end and the lead vocal up high. So basically, I just started piecing the composition together voice by voice in my Sonar Producer Edition. And I started with the first chorus and decided to just go straight into the chorus as you hear it in the Spotify version, so no intro or anything. And to give you an idea of the vocal range for each of the voices, I will talk about each of them a little bit here. And by the way, this part of the video onward is best listened to with some good headphones or some good speakers, because it'll be the most interesting if you can hear the left to right panning and the vocal nuances. First thing to note is the reason I chose to make it 5 voices instead of some other number. I could have just made it 3 voices, like bass, harmony, and lead up top. But I wanted a rich and balanced stereo field. So if I had had just 3 voices, then I would have had to have left them all centered in the mix, which wouldn't be as interesting with good speakers or headphones if it's all centered. It's basically not stereo, it's just mono in that case. Just to show you what I mean, here's the final mix with the 5 voices and the harmonium that takes up the stereo field versus 3 voices and a harmonium panned in the center.
Share that vision now, and I see life so clearly now. No matter where I go, my heart goes open and my mind goes free.
Or one other possibility would be that I would just pan the 3 voices kind of various places in the stereo field to fill out the mix, but then I'd have like the low sounds down on one side, the middle on one side, and the lead somewhere else. So it just would have sounded weird, I think. So I went with the lead vocal in the center position in the pan, and each bass voice, so I chose 2 bass voices to make it symmetrical, and I panned them each out 35% or so off center in each direction. And then the harmony voices, I panned them out about 70% from center in each direction. So that's how I tried to give each voice as much space in the mix as possible. And in the end, the harmonium was panned in the center as well. And so now that I was clear on having 5 vocal tracks in the song, I spent a few days working on each part one by one for each section of the song, figuring out the notes for each voice that I really liked for the harmonies. And my goal here was to get a scratch or rough version of the song for all the voices. And so I did that bit by bit over 3 to 4 days, let's say about 20 hours. Some things that took the longest were getting the bass line and the beatboxing to where I wanted them to be, including some of the little features in there that I'll show you in more detail in a minute. As well as there's this end part of the song here after the last chorus. It took me a while to get the vowel sounds and the notes for each of my voices sounding how I wanted them to be. And I had to get the hang of how loud to sing and what position in front of the microphone was going to be best for each of the notes, basically. And yeah, I had to learn to sing better to finish this part. So once I had the whole arrangement down for the song, I could listen back and get how it was going to sound as a whole from start to finish and plan for my final takes. When I talk about arranging, like I did earlier in this video, I'm talking about things that are in the context of the whole song, like how verse 2, for example, has more backup vocals going on more consistently through it than the first verse does. So there's this growth effect from verse 1 to verse 2. Or how the last chorus has the most going on in the bass line to kind of culminate the things I've been playing with throughout the track previously. So it requires some planning and attention and nuance through each of the parts. So that's what this whole first part was, of getting all the parts down and making sure that the whole track as a whole worked cohesively. So with the scratch parts down, I was happy with the arrangement. So I just went ahead and I did the final versions of all 5 voices. I did do them in parts again, since I'm pretty picky and really wanted to nail the parts to my very high standards. So I didn't just do them all in one take for each voice. So once I had the final parts down, it just came down to editing, mixing, and mastering, which I'd love to show you how I do that at some point, but my Motu 828, my audio hardware, just broke somehow, so I need to get my gear figured out here before I'm able to do that, anyway, for another day. But basically, mixing involves, well, in this track, it involved adding a few volume envelopes to kind of manage the volume of some of the voices at some certain points, and doing some auto-tuning as well, especially on the bass lines, since the bass notes, especially the B flat, which is like boom, do, don, 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 the E flat is right at the low end of my vocal range, so I was finding it really hard to produce and sustain accurate bass notes while also doing the all the other stuff. So I did let auto-tune kind of take me the last 15% of so to really getting a bass line that was in tune. And I did add some reverb on the whole mix as well, all the instruments. I use typically IK Multimedia's CSR reverb unit for that. And here's what the reverb sounds like on its own, isolated in the mix. And the voices and instruments without reverb.
I'm done with that. Let the fences go to live. Love is this.
And then everything together. You'll probably need headphones to really hear the difference.
Time to let things flow naturally. I'll step out the way spirit decide for me. There's no time to let that ego interfere. Let that old ghost go.
And then after mixing the track, I mastered it. which was basically pretty simple. I didn't fuss too much. It was just a matter of some overall bus EQ on the whole mix, some compression, stereo compression, and a brick wall limiter. And with that, I exported the final audio track at 7:07 p.m. on July 7th, 2023. Hence the 777 mix. And by the way, if you do the numerological trick of breaking down 2023, 2 plus 2 plus 3, you get 7. So it was 7:07 p.m. on the 7th month, 7th day of 7. So I don't know, kind of funny. The 777 of the day I didn't plan. It just was like, oh look, I'm done today, and it appears to be 777. But then the 7:07 p.m. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna just cap myself on all my continually trying to make things better and just finish it by no later than 7:07 p.m. I'm gonna print the final audio track then. So I did, and so I sent it out to Spotify right away on DistroKid. I use distrokid.com for releasing my stuff on digital retailers, and then I used my friend Oraya's painting that I bought from her as album art. It's this awesome golden glowing goodness piece here that you see around me all the time in my videos. Thanks, Oraya. So good for you if you stuck around all the way through the technical part. Good on ya. Hopefully it was interesting. From here on out in the video, I'm just going to take you on a tour of some of my favorite parts of the mix and the vocals, which I really love, so it'll just be a treat for the ears. Here we go. Just as a starting point, I will show you what each of the voices sounds like just right in the first chorus here. So here's everything together.
My levees are breaking down, down, down. I'm pouring out. My heart
and here's just the basses.
Keep close, down, down. Share that vision.
This part I find pretty cool as well, how I've split out the do-do-do over the 4 voices.
My heart goes open, my mind goes free.
Verse 1, so beatboxing and lead, and the harmonies are quiet for now. I really like how you can hear me breathe on the beatboxing tracks here.
Off the clock. Let's keep it vertical.
I just love when the backup vocals come in here, particularly the how quiet they are. Like, ooh, I'm singing so quiet and then kind of nasally. And it just came out so sweet.
Get back into purpose to be done through. Knew there was something going wrong. The world of competition, clashing brains and brawn. Done with that.
That is one thing to note about this mix, is that whereas the bass voices, they're 2 voices, but they're typically doing the exact same thing except for one place in the bridge, if I recall correctly. But the harmony voices are often doing different notes, just like they do here.
Time to let things flow naturally. I'll step out the way spirit decide for me. There's no time to let that ego interfere. Let that old ghost go. My levees are breaking down. Born to love and share that vision now. I see life so clearly now.
And then this part coming up here I love for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because the bass hits so heavily right on this downbeat.
No matter where I go.
Another thing is the harmonium that I'm playing when the beat drops here. It wasn't intentional, actually. I thought of it as a mistake at the time, but hanging out on the A note, I really like it in the end. It kind of adds a little bit of a mystical vibe.
My mind goes free.
So a couple of arrangement things to note for verse 2 here. The bass lines and beatboxing are doing more pronounced clicking sounds.
You on a journey, all fly together, clear weather.
So that kind of drives the beat a little bit more. And then also the harmony voices operating all the way throughout a lot more consistently, whereas in the first verse they were quiet for about half of it. So the effect is that verse 2 is a little more energetic.
It's not a cloud in the sky of the mind that knows its nature, removing blocks.
Little bass feature.
Of love. You gotta know there's nothing here.
Also for this part, when I was working out the bass line earlier in the project, I noticed that I was doing some kind of breathing thing with my voice unconsciously, which reminded me of tabla drums. And so I ended up experimenting, doing more consciously with that. And I came up with this kind of ooh thing that I'm doing in the bass line. By the way, if you don't know tabla drums, check out this awesome video on YouTube here. I'll leave the description below. So in the end, hitting all the bass notes, imitating the tabla, and doing all the beatboxing all at once with each voice took a lot of takes, but I think it sounds pretty sweet in the end.
And that teacher only sees what is real in us, the joy for us.
And then here I double up on the ooh.
Decide for me, there's no time to let that ego interfere, let that old ghost go. And it's time now to break out and feel new vision, where problems just don't take resist anywhere. The lonely dark castles on the sandy land. We don't need walls if we all come together. Levees are breaking down, like pouring out. My heart is open, I won't keep them closing down.
And this next little part in the chorus here, I love the bass lines, how there's a contrast between, at first it starts out with the consistent bass notes, and then it goes to the with the spaces in it and the tabla effect. I really love it.
My heart goes open.
And because I love this end part so much, and it took so much practice and refinement to get it to where I want it to be, I will just show you what each of the voices is doing in here so you can hear the intricacy of it.
My mind goes free, yeah. Whoa, 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 yeah. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
So that was the lead voice. We'll just rewind this and show you harmony.
My mind goes free, yeah. Whoa, 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 yeah. Whoa, whoa, whoa. For love, for life, for all our blessings.
And then the right harmony.
My mind goes free, yeah. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, whoa, 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 whoa. For love, for life, for all our blessings.
And a little mix of lead and harmonies with some harmonium.
My mind goes free, yeah. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, whoa, whoa, whoa. For love, for life, for all our blessings.
All right, last couple features here before we finish this video. We got a little bass gap here that I love. And the very last held note of the song, I'm singing Om, which is the primordial sound of creation from Hinduism. Thought it would be a fitting end note for a spiritual piece. And so there you have it. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this was interesting to you. If you like this song, you may just want to check out the karaoke version that I made, where I took out the lead vocals, I left everybody, all the other Allens in there. So basically you get to sing in your own way and you have the other Allens back you up. Kind of cool. Or if you play music on your own, you want to learn this song, I made a lyrics and chord chart, which you can download. So check out both of these things, the karaoke and this chart, on my website, alan-robertson.ca/levee-breaking, and they're all gathered there for you. Also, I could really use your help with something. I am doing a whole bunch of things, and there's a lot of things that I want to do to contribute to people and planet that I do not have the resources to do right now. So if you liked this video, you found it inspiring, I would super love if you wouldn't mind checking out my support page and just see if there's something on there that you wouldn't mind helping me with. Lots of options on there, some big, some small. And of course, one small thing is if you can think of anybody that would love this video, please send them, if you don't mind, the link. I would super appreciate it. Of course, this music doesn't go anywhere without your help sharing. So you're awesome. I wish you all the best on your journey, and thanks so much for watching. Catch you in the flow.